Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the flights and community. This is Viperstrike 95, and today we're back with another Firefly, with another 50 States and 50 Streams. And we're here in Missouri today. Yes, the Show Me States, and we're actually here at Farmington Regional Airport. I hope you're all having a good day here. So, I hope you have a good weekend so far. It turns out there's some pretty interesting stuff going on here, as always. So we're going to be doing some flying here in Missouri today. We'll be checking out some of the state's most historic areas and talk about what makes Missouri tick as a U.S. state. So before we get started, I do want to say hello to the chat. We have, of course, I do want to say hello to our moderator, Super Typhon. Good to see you, and hello to all the lurkers. Welcome on in, everyone. I hope you're all having a great day. So here's our flight plan for today's stream. So we're going to be starting here at Farmington Regional Airport. Then from there, we're going to head over to St. Louis, the gateway of the West, St. Louis, Missouri. Then from St. Louis, we'll head west and to reach our first stop here at Washington Regional Airport, just outside of Washington, Missouri. Then from there, we'll continue head west. We'll visit Jefferson City, check out this capital of Missouri. Check out Missouri State Capitol here at Jefferson City. So here's the state capitol. Then we're going to move up and reach our way over to the well-known college town of Columbia, Missouri, home of the University of Missouri Tigers. We'll fly over Missouri. And then we'll make our way to our second stop at Veterans Memorial Airport. Then from there, we're going to head over to the largest city of Missouri, Kansas City. We'll check out downtown Kansas City. We'll fly over the home of the Kansas City Chiefs. Then we'll make our way over to KC, or the Kansas City area. And then we'll make our way over to our final stop at Charles B. Wilder Downtown Airport just north of downtown Kansas City. So yes, that's going to be our flight plan for today's stream. So before we get started, so the plane we'll be flying here this morning will be the Diamond DA-40 New Gen, made by Diamond Aircraft. Very successful plane. Of course, I did forget to do something when I was not this command, because I forgot to take out something. I forgot to remove the engine cover. What do? But the good thing about diamonds are really easy to start. Don't take much to get these. They don't take much to get started, so this will be pretty easy for us. So we're going to take off here at Farmington, Missouri here today. So as we taxi, we're going to talk a little bit about Farmington, Missouri. Farmington is located in St. Francois County, Missouri. Located in the Lead Belt region of Missouri. Its population as of 2020 was 18,217 people. It was established in 1822 as Murphy's Settlement, named after William Murphy of Kentucky, who first visited this area back in 1798. And then it was renamed to Farmington when the county was organized at the time. This city was most well known for being the first settlement. It's home to the first Protestant Sunday school west of the Mississippi. But one of the big parts about Farmington, Missouri, is it grew a lot during the 19th century thanks to Plank Road, which produced a lot of the villages supplied to the Mississippi River. And St. Joe Park attracts a lot of different outdoor activities, from ATVs to campers, horseback riders, bicyclists, and swimmers, all make a home here at Farmington, Missouri's St. Joe Park. Here it is, guys. Farmington. Here's Farmington, Missouri. Oh yeah, I forgot to do the information for Missouri yesterday. We're gonna briefly go over the history of Missouri for a bit. AKA the Show Me State. Let's go over here. Missouri. Here we go, guys. Missouri. Everyone should probably know this. This doubly landlocked state in the Midwest U.S. is the 21st largest state in land area. It borders Iowa to the north, Illinois and Kentucky and Tennessee to the east, Arkansas to the south, and Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska to the west, making it among the most bordered states of the United States. No joke. It's also home to some of the oldest mountains in the world, the St. Francois Mountains, part of the Ozark. It's also home to it's named after the Missouri River, which flows through the center of the state into the Mississippi. And the Missouri is also one of the longest rivers in the country. It's the 19th most populous state in the country with over 6 million residents, with some of the largest urban areas being St. Louis, Kansas City, Springfield, and more. So people have been around Missouri for at least the last 12,000 years, but it didn't become part of European landscape until the 17th century. But Missouri has an interesting history as especially in the 19th century, thanks to the fact it was a border state and has a complex role in the civil. Today, the state is divided into 114 counties and independent city St. Louis, and it's been known as the Mother of the West, Cave State, and its most well-known nickname, the Show Me State. It blends the Midwest and the South, with all sorts of interesting cultural institutions, including ragtime, Kansas City jazz, St. Louis blues, as well as Kansas City barbecue. And of course, it's got a rich beer making history thanks to the fact it's home to the world's largest beer producer, Anheuser-Busch, as well as some really cool other places to check out here. So you may be asking yourself, how did Missouri came the way it be? Well, historically, archaeological excavations have revealed that people have inhabited this area since 9000 BCE. Before 1000 CE, the people of the Mississippian culture created the political regional centers of present-day St. Louis and Cahokia, which visited in Illinois. And they included thousands of individual residences, but now they're no more for their earthwork mounds for religious, political, and societal reasons. Civilization did decline in the 1400 CE, and most descendants left the area long before the arrival of Europeans. St. Louis was once known as Mound City due to all this stuff around. Of course, the area around the state was part of numerous different territories, and they often changing and indeterminate borders with many different Native American and European names between the 1600s and 1700s. Of course, the first Europeans explored were French traders and missionaries who explored the whole of the Mississippi Valley, and they named it all of Louisiana. And around that same time, a different group of French Canadians establishes 5 villages on the east bank of the Mississippi as Illinois, the county of Illinois. Of course, they were mainly French Canadians who created the first settlement in Missouri at St. Genevieve, about 45 miles south of St. Louis, and they migrated in about 750 from Illinois County. Of course, in 1764, they founded the very important city of St. Louis by French fur traders Gilbert Antoine de Saint-Maixent, Pierre Le Cid, and Auguste Chouteau, and they founded the historic settlement of St. Louis. From 1764 to 1803, European controlled area west of the Mississippi was part of the Missouri River Basin. And of course, this area was a major center for trade for the Native American tribes up to the Mississippi River. And it was a big part of the regional economy for decades. As a result, of course, the French gave it up to the Spanish after the French and Indian War. Louisiana became part of Spain. Of course, Napoleon did regain control of Louisiana for the Spanish in 1800. Secret, of course, in the Treaty of San Ildefonso, it's been a secret. Of course, this land was later given to the United States in 1803 by the Louisiana Purchase. And one of those gateways to the west was St. Louis, as St. Louis served as a major departure point for settlement, most notably the Lewis and Clark expedition, which we'll be doing in another series. And as a result, for decades, St. Louis was a major supply for much of the people heading west. As many of the early settlers of western Missouri migrated from the upper south, they brought many enslaved Americans as laborers and to continue the culture and institution of slavery. And this was going to be a pretty big issue considering when Missouri was admitted as a state. As it turned out, it was admitted under the Missouri Compromise in 1821. Though the slave border was in the west line, it was defined as the meridian passing into the canal, and it was known as the Osage boundary. And then more land was added during the Platte Purchase. Of course, Missouri was also involved with the Honeylands, mainly with the Mormons. Created a lot of issues with the Mormons and conflicts over it, which caused many of the Mormons to flee Missouri and head west to Utah. Of course, they also had lots of migrants enter here throughout the next couple of decades. And as a result, between the different slavery, and all this issue was such a major issue for Missouri, of course, that it became one of the border states. So during the American Civil War time, of course, the Southern states succeeded in 1861. The Missouri legislature called for a special convention on it, and eventually, after much time, they voted against secession and qualified their support for the Union, despite being a border state. So they supported the Union during the U.S. Civil War. Of course, there was still a lot of controversy between different leaders on both sides. Missouri was definitely involved for both. One of those being General Sterling Price, as the convention for secession, and Confederate troops from Arkansas, Texas, and one of those battles being the Battle of Wilson Creek. And of course, Confederate troops had some raids in here. However, fighting the state for the next 3 years consisted of guerrilla warfare. And citizen soldiers such as Captain William Quantrill, but most notably, Al Frank and Jesse James, which you guys all better know him as one of the most famous outlaws West. Younger brothers in William T. Anderson used a quick small unit tactics. And historians, well, being part of the Civil War. Of course, when the Civil War did end, it remained electoral competitive during the Jim Crow era, and unlike many other states, they did not disenfranchise African Americans. And Missouri never even had a poll tax. However, there was racial segregation. Of course, it was officially issued during this time. During the 20th century, the Progressive era saw many prominent leaders to end corruption and monarchist politics. One of those being Joseph Polk, who was a key leader in doing things like antitrust prosecution and a free railroad passes for state officials, state of bribery statutes, improved laws, and much, much more. There are a lot of changes. Of course, between the Civil War and World War II, Missouri transitioned from a rural economy to hybrid industrial service agricultural economy as the Midwest rapidly industrialized, and the expansion of railroads to the west transformed Kansas City to become one of the nation's transportation hubs. Also, with the refrigerated boxcar, Kansas City became a meat packaging center, thanks to lots of cattle drives bringing cattle from Texas to Dodge City in our Kansas town. And of course, between the 50s and 60s, Kansas City did suffer from deindustrialization with the loss of jobs. However, that being said, Missouri has done pretty well, actually. They've redeveloped many of these areas through decades. They have done so pretty well. Missouri did receive national attention for the wrong reasons in 2014, thanks to protests and riots, the Ferguson unrest with the shooting of Michael Brown by a police officer, as well. And then there were also protests at the University of Missouri and more as well. So that base, and it's had some issues during the time. And then finally in 2019, St. Louis was developed more with the rise of its MLS team. And Kansas City had a boom in population as well. So Missouri's doing pretty good for itself over the past couple of years. Here is the mighty Mississippi, by the way. Is the mighty Mississippi going down. Here it is, guys. So, guys, I hope you're enjoying this stream and want to learn more about it. So, we're heading to St. Louis today. We're heading pretty close to St. Louis, actually. So guys, I hope you're all having a good weekend today. Some bits of news is covering up. First, the final 4 games have been set. The last 2 teams for the national championship game have been set. First was the Florida-Auburn game for the SEC. And Florida was victorious. So Florida's in the national championship game for the first time since 2014. They're going to look to win their first national championship tonight. If they were to win, it would be their first title since 2007, when they went back-to-back in 2006-2007. So this could be a really big deal for University of Florida to win another national championship. It would be really good news for Florida basketball. And then, of course, an absolutely insane game yesterday. And that is Houston. Houston Duke had an absolute insane game. Houston made a massive comeback in the second half, and they beat out an insanely good Duke team. And yeah, Houston's in the national championship game. They've been in this situation before as a runner-up multiple times in the Final Four. But this could be an opportunity. If Houston were to win tomorrow night, it would be their program's first national title. And they came close twice in 1983 and 1984. They came insanely close. I mean, they had some great teams during that time, like Hakeem Olajuwon, Elvin Hayes, Clyde Drexler. But yeah, for them to win their first national championship under Kelvin Sampson would be a huge deal for the university. Which would be a huge deal for Kelvin Sampson. That would be huge for him to finally get a national championship. So yeah, pretty big moment for the University of Houston. It would be really huge for their program. And then other news, the Premier League was on. Everton managed to get a point against Arsenal. That's huge. That was a big thing to. That was a big thing for Everton to get a point versus Arsenal. I mean, is huge. It was much needed to get that point. Because this month is brutal in scheduling. Because last Wednesday was Liverpool. Yesterday was Arsenal. And then for the next couple weeks, it's going to be brutal, because April is literally versus the top 5 in the Premier League, because it's going to be Liverpool, Arsenal, Nottingham Forest, Manchester City, and Chelsea, all in the top 5 in the standings. If we can get some points, that would be great, because it is a brutal schedule. Absolutely brutal. Thankfully, the last months are going to be much easier for Everton, as they only have to worry, as I believe the games versus Southampton, Ipswich could be pretty good wins for us. They're terrible this year. Southampton's horrible. Pretty good points, and then Fulham and Bournemouth, I believe. Yeah, I think it's Fulham could be anyone's game. Newcastle might win, but who knows? Everton might steal one. So I think Everton's going to be fine. And then, of course, today, what? Fulham are beating Liverpool? What? I just realized Fulham is beating Liverpool 3-1 right now. Jesus. Did they put all that versus Everton? I I can't believe it. What? Oh yeah. One more thing too. I also did get a stadium tour thing booked. On Friday afternoon. So I'm actually going to visit Stamford Bridge and Chelsea FC during my time in London. I'm going to be visiting Stamford Bridge, which I'm definitely very much looking forward to as well. During my time, be pretty cool. Of course, we're going to visit one of America's more historic cities. We're going to be visiting St. Louis, Missouri today. St. Louis. Um, in this gateway to the west, it lies near the confluence of the Mississippi Missouri rivers. Population of 301,000 people. However, its metro area is actually the largest in the state, 2.8 million people, which is massive, and it stretches between both Missouri and Illinois. This land became occupied by Native American culture for thousands of years before European settlement. It was founded in 1764 by French fur traders Gilbert Antoine de Saint Maxent, Pierre Lassede, and Auguste Clotel. And they named it after King Louis XI of France, and became the regional center of the French Illinois country. US acquired it for the Louisiana Purchase, and it became a major gateway for people heading west, most notably the Lewis and Clark expedition. In fact, at one point, from 1870 to 1920, you wouldn't believe this, St. Louis was actually the fourth largest city in the country. And in fact, it was so notable of a city that not only did it host, in 1904, it hosted two huge events. The St. Louis World Fair, aka the Louisiana Purchase Exposition, and you guys wouldn't believe this. What if I told you St. Louis once held the Summer Olympics in 1904? Yes, St. Louis hosted a Summer Olympics. Some of y'all might not even believe this, but it's true. St. Louis is home to nearly 16 Fortune 1000 companies, 6 of which are actually in the Fortune 500. And St. Louis is also a great sports city with 4 professional sports teams: St. Louis Cardinals, the city's most beloved team, the Cardinals, of Major League Baseball, the Blues of the NHL, the MLS's St. Louis Soccer Club, and the United Football League's St. Louis Battlehawks. Other attractions, of course, include the St. Louis Zoo, the St. Louis Art Museum, Belafonte Cemetery, and of course the city's most iconic landmark, the Gateway Arch, which we'll cover more during our national park stream because, yes, the Gateway Arch is actually technically a national park. Don't know why it's a national park, but here we are. But yes, St. Louis is a really, really cool city. I think I did a whole city tour of St. Louis, not during my time. I think I did a city tour of St. Louis, I believe. Yeah, one of the city tours was St. Louis, Missouri. We did a whole city tour of this. So if anyone who's ever watched that should probably be a little familiar with it. So yeah, Murph is currently on streaming right now. He's currently in Montana right now. He just started his stream thing again today. He's in Montana. So yeah, he's streaming Montana today. It'll be a while till we hit Montana for our stream, so it's gonna be taking us a bit of a while. But yes, here it is, guys. St. Louis. If you guys aren't aware about St. Louis, this city is a very culturally rich city. It's home to a very well-known basilica, the Cathedral St. Basilica of St. Louis, which is home to the world's largest mosaic installation. It's also well known for the performing arts with jazz, blues, and ragtime. And of course, St. Louis is also rich for its cuisine, thanks to toasted ravioli, gooey butter cake, provo cheese. Yes, provo, which is a combination. It's a processed combination of cheddar, Swiss provolone, and wicked smoke. The slinger, Gerber sandwich, and St. Paul sandwich. And of course, has also got its own pizza and barbecue too. And like I said, it's a great sports city with St. Louis Cardinals being one of baseball's most iconic franchises. Um, Having won 11 World Series championships in their club's history, which is second most behind the Yankees. So St. Louis is a great baseball town. It's one of the best in the country for baseball. I mean, especially come every summer and stuff. They watch the Cardinals. They also got the Blues. They actually had 4 different NFL teams play at St. Louis, but they couldn't keep any of them as of today. The MLS has actually been quite popular in St. Louis. Soccer is actually moving to be quite popular in St. Louis now, due to the fact that the MLS's St. Louis SC has been a big deal. And of course, they now have a lot of stuff too. They used to have an NBA team. Who knows? St. Louis could get a basketball team. But St. Louis is a great sports town. Here it is, guys. So here it is, downtown St. Louis. We can see art. And of course, we can also see the baseball town. The baseball stadium. Here's the Edwards Jones Dome. Used to be the home of the Rams. There's the baseball stadium. There's Busch Stadium. There's the hockey arena. Enterprise Center, home of the St. Louis Blues, city's well-liked NHL team. But of course, we're going to visit the famous Forest Park, actually, which is actually, by the way, where they hosted Forest Park is actually the largest park in the city with over 1,400 acres of land. And this is actually, funnily enough, this is twice as big. It's nearly twice as big as Central Park in New York. And it's home to 5 major institutions that are actually very important. And it's a really cool thing to visit. And this was also where they hosted the 1904 Summer Olympics were actually held here in this park, as well as the Louisiana Purchase Exposition. Yeah, this park actually is really cool. It's got a rich history. Yeah, it's a huge park. You can see golf courses, there's a zoo, all sorts of parks here too. It's a neat area. And this is another reason I like this plane too. The last cockpit, visibility on this thing. Okay, here's the St. Louis Zoo. There's the zoo. And this right here is the playscape. Of course, the World's Fair Pavilion was there. Yeah, that covers the city of St. Louis, Missouri, for a good bit. Oh yeah, speaking about Gateway Arch, I did cover this. I forgot to cover this while we were in St. Louis. The Gateway Arch. Now, the Gateway Arch we passed was a 603-foot monument clad in stainless steel, built from the form of a weighted canterbury arch, the world's tallest arch, and was built as a gateway to the west. It was a National Historic Landmark and it's even a national park in 2018, which is pretty controversial to say the least, but we'll cover more about that when we get to national park. It was designed by French-Finnish-American architect Eero Saarinen in 1947, and it costed $13 million to build the Gateway Arch. Like I said, we'll cover more about when we get to. We'll get more into that coverage once we get to the national park. We'll talk more about that arc. We're going to go ahead and head our way over to our first stop, Kilo Foxtrot Yankee Golf. So let's talk a little bit about Missouri's geography for a little bit. So geographically wise, of course, Missouri is bordered by 8 states, which is equal to its next border, Tennessee. But Missouri is located near the geographic center of the U.S., has 3 distinct physiographical divisions. In the northwestern upland plain, the north, you have the upland plains or prairie region of the interior plain central lowland, known as the northern plains. Southeast Missouri, you have the Boot Heel region, which is the Atlantic plain, or the Mississippi alluvial plain of the Mississippi River. Then you also have the Ozark Plateau regions between the Mississippi plain and the central lowland. You can find the Ozarks. And then the west corner is the Western plain. And basically, the boundary between those runs from St. Louis to Columbia. The northern plains are mainly hilly and more broken in the western part than the eastern half. And it ranges in its extreme between 1,200 feet in the northwest, in the northeast about 500 feet. And a lot of the stuff is lots of valleys. Then you have the Ozark Plateau, which is the low dome, and it's the more rocky region of the state. And elevations can vary from 1,000 to 1,700 feet. And the 2 highest points of the state are Comstock Mountain, which is in St. Francois County, Iron County, Missouri, and Lead Hill, east of Deer Gap, 1,744 feet. Then you have the Missouri alluvial plains to the southeast, which is some of the flattest area in the state. And like I said earlier, Missouri borders 8 other states, more than any other state except for Tennessee, which also borders. And then we have the climate of Missouri. And the climate here in Missouri is generally a humid continental climates, with sometimes what's cool, sometimes cold winters, and hot, humid, and wet summers. In the southern part, particularly in the Boot Heel, the climate becomes humid subtropical. And located in the interior U.S., Missouri often experiences extreme temperatures. Without high mountains or oceans to moderate temperature, it's alternatively influenced by cold air from the cold Arctic and the hot, humid Gulf of Mexico. As a result, its highest temperature ever was 118 degrees in Warsaw in Union on July 14, 1954, while its lowest temperature, also recorded at Warsaw, negative 40 degrees. Yeah, in 1905. Also, it's located in Tornado Alley, which means it receives weather in severe thunderstorms and tornadoes. And particularly one particular tornado in 2011, known as the Joplin tornado, killed 150 people and destroyed 1/3 of the city of Joplin, which did $1 to $3 billion in damage. It's one of the deadliest tornadoes in American history. Also, one of the worst tornadoes also struck this area in St. Louis, which killed 255 people and caused $10 million in damage. Struck the city of St. Louis. So yes, St. Louis has had tornado damage too. So do be warned. I hope you're enjoying the stream. If you're liking the stream, I hope you're having a great weekend. Enjoying your time here with our channel. Streaming here always. So our first stop is going to be Washington Regional Airport, just outside of Washington, Missouri. We'll be landing here very shortly, and we'll take a bit of a rest and prepare for the next leg of the stream. And our next leg will be covering which will mainly be covering Jefferson City. We'll be getting here pretty soon. Here we go, guys. Our first stop here of the day. we'll stop right here for a little bit and just chill for a bit. So let's go ahead and prepare for our next leg. We'll be flying for our next destination. Here we go, guys, and we're going to make our way over. So here we go, guys. We're going to head our way over to Jefferson City right now. Just about to make our way over to our next stop destination, Jefferson City, Missouri State Capital. So On our way here, let's talk a little bit about the economy of Missouri, even. So, Missouri, economically speaking, has over 2.4 million total people employed. And Missouri's gross state product in 2023 was $422 billion. Its per capita income is 34th in the nation with $61,302. Major industries in the state include agriculture, aerospace, transportation equipment, food processing, chemicals, printing, publishing, electrical equipment, light manufacturing, and financial services make a big part of Missouri's economy. Culturally, the products of the state include beef, soybeans, pork, dairy products, hay, corn, poultry, sorghum, cotton, rice, and eggs. Missouri ranks sixth in the nation for the production of hogs, and seventh for cattle. It's also one of the top five in the U.S. states in production of soybeans, and fourth in the nation in rice production. So yes, Missouri has quite a solid agricultural profile. It has the second most farms in any U.S. state after Texas, with 108,000 farms in 2001. And it also promotes its rapidly growing wine industry that generates $33 billion in GDP in Missouri's economy and $88 billion in sales, along with more than 378,000 jobs. Of course, in terms of minerals, it has vast quantities of limestone, with other mineral resources include lead, coal, and crushed stone. In fact, Missouri leads all U.S. states in lead. And most of the lead mines are located in the central eastern portion of the state. It also produced first in production of lime, which is actually a mineral used in Portland cement, which is the most common type of cement in the world. Missouri also has a growing science, agriculture, technology, and biotech field, thanks to Monsanto, which was based in St. Louis until it was acquired by Bayer in 2018. And of course, increasing importance would be tourism services and retail follow manufacturing. Tourism benefits thanks to the rivers, caves, lakes, parks throughout the states, as well as Gateway Arch National Park and Ozark National Scenic Riverways, as well as the Show Cave, Merrimack Caverns, and Stanton. And of course, Missouri is the only state to have two Federal Reserve banks. That's right, there's two of them in the state. One in Kansas City and one in St. Louis, which serves different parts of the country. Yes, Missouri definitely has a pretty diverse economy moving forward. So the other part of Missouri I do want to cover for a bit is going to be transportation. Transportation will be the next thing covered is transportation. In terms of airports, there are two major airport hubs here in the state. Of course, historic St. Louis Lambert International Airport in St. Louis, and Kansas City International are the two big ones. Lambert is the old airport opened back in 1928, and it serves 16 million passengers a year in 2024 to 80 destination nonstop 80 domestic and international destinations. And at one point, it was actually the hub for Trans World Airlines. But it served all over different places across the country and the globe. St. Louis became a gateway for a lot of flights both in and out of the United States. And Kansas City International is actually built in Kansas City, Missouri, but it served last year 12 million people. It flew. It's actually the sixth largest airport in the country in terms of acreage. It flies to a lot of U.S. destinations, but also a handful of international ones. Pretty interesting stuff. Other airports in the state include Springfield, Branson, as well as Columbia Regional Airports, are some of the other airports in the state. Of course, two of the nation's busiest, of the three busiest rail centers are all in Missouri. Most notably, Kansas City, which serves as a railroad hub for a ton of railroads. And then, of course, St. Louis is another big one, too. And Amtrak serves Kansas City to a ton of different destinations through multiple different train services. It also serves several bus and river routes for transports, and of course, the highway system as well. That's a big part of Missouri. There's over 2,200 miles of highways in the state of Missouri. Good to see you, Kingsman. I'm doing well. The weather's doing all right. Rains are still been a big issue at home, Kingsman. I'm worried about flooding, by the way. So it turns out, Kingsman, so I figured out what to do in Liverpool for our vacation in the United Kingdom. I figured out what we're going to be doing in Liverpool for the trip. We're going to have one day we'll be checking out in our day in Liverpool. I think we're mainly going to just do the dock. And we're going to check out the area around the dock, which will include the Maritime Museum, the dock, the Royal Albert Dock, the different buildings. I think we're going to also check out the Liverpool Cathedral as well. And the Cavern Club might be one of the times we may visit. And then for myself, I got a little itinerary planned because I'm an Evertonian. I cheer for the other team in Liverpool. So, but I do want to do a football-inspired trip, which is I'm mainly gonna check out the lockup tower, Prince Rupert's Tower. Gonna check that out, take a picture off for that one. Then visit Onfield for some photos. Check because I know it's gonna be closed for tours. So take some pictures of Onfield. Maybe take a picture of either the Liverpool statue or maybe the memorial for the Hillsborough Stadium disaster. Take a picture of that. Then head our way over to Goodison. Check out because I think it's still going to be standing. So I'll take some pictures of Goodison. Take a picture of St. Luke's Church and the Dixie Dean statue. And then finally visit the new stadium. But yeah. So that's what I'm planning on doing in Liverpool. I'll let you know, Kingsman, when I do come. Oh yeah, and by the way, I'm also got a Steam tour planned in London too. Since due to Liverpool Onfield not working out, I had to get a Steam tour in London. So I'll be touring Stamford Bridge. Stamford Bridge, which is a really historic venue back in 1877. I've wanted to do a stadium tour since I don't think I'm ever going to come back. I wanted to do a stadium tour of a Premier League club, and Chelsea was the one that worked out for us with our schedule and stuff in London. So I'm hoping we can make it because we're also doing Windsor Castle that day. But I really want this to work out because I really wanted to check out a Hollow Premier League ground, which I think is super cool. Yeah, Everton's got their brand new facility next season. I know they've been doing some test matches. Looks really great. Looks really, really cool. Yeah, I can't wait to take some pictures of the new one. It looks absolutely awesome. I mean, Goodison's been a great venue for many games at Everton. I still want to check it out, but man, that new stadium's going to be a game. It probably going to bring more than double the match day revenue of Goodison. So that'll be nice. I'm looking forward to our trip. Maybe we might meet up and have a beer. That would be cool. But if it can't work, don't worry about it. Yeah, over 130 years. I know, it's crazy. It's been 130 years old. But yeah, I've been keeping track of that Premier League season. I know Liverpool didn't do so well today, sadly, for the Reds. They really bended against Fulham. They really bended. So we're gonna head to Jefferson City, guys. So Jefferson City is the capital of Missouri. We'll be checking that out. Yeah, Liverpool will definitely still win the league. There's no question about that. Liverpool's amazing this year, but still not a good performance. I'll tell you that much. Trust me, they're still gonna win the league. No question. There's no. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of the games at home, so that's what I've mainly been doing, watching all the Premier League games at home now. I finally realized I could just watch the games in Peacock. I didn't know that. So now I can watch it. Jefferson City will be where we're going to be heading next. So Jefferson City. Jefferson City is the capital of the U.S. state of Missouri. In the 2020 census, it is the 16th most populous city with 43,000 people, and it's the 9th least populous state capital. And it's also the county seat of Cole County, Missouri. It was named after Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, and the major author of the Declaration of Independence, as well as, of course, being involved with the Louisiana Purchase. And it's located on the northern edge of the Ozark Plateau on the southern side of Missouri. It was mid-Missouri, and it's between Kansas City and St. Louis, which probably made the capital. It also serves on the western edge of the Missouri Rhineland, which is one of the major wine producing regions of the Midwest United States. And it's dominated by the Missouri State Capitol. And of course, this was also where Lewis and Clark passed the bluff here on their expedition to the Pacific Northwest. And there's also home to the Lincoln University, a public historic black and federal grant university founded after the Civil War. And there's also a museum and stuff too. Yeah. That was some pretty cool stuff here in Jefferson City. Yeah, like I said, I'm looking forward to watching some stuff at home and just enjoy my time with the community. We're going to be, so if Jefferson City's come out, I think we're going to see the Capitol building up. We're going to see the Capitol building up there, and that way we can eventually make our way there. So here's what the scenery looks like here. It looks absolutely cool out here. See some of the bluffs and hilly areas here. Quite hilly in this part of Missouri, as you guys can tell. Yeah. Pretty cool. So, definitely pretty cool thing about Kansas City and Missouri as well. Talk more about. But one of the really cool things about Missouri that I think is really interesting to know about is that Missouri has quite the history with Kansas, because of the not only the fact that two states do border each other, but also there are some conflicts between those two states, Missouri and Kansas. I think they call it Bleeding Kansas, but Missouri and Kansas don't like each other. But I think one of the really cool things about visiting England, though, Kingsman, is definitely the fact that we're going to visit some really cool areas here. Oh, Windsor. I think I've already also got the plan thing out, but Windsor Castle is going to be one day, which is really cool. One day we're going to do like a taxi tour and visit the Tower of London and do a taxi tour. That would be really cool. Then one day the Kensington Palace, which is going to be cool. The old Kensington, which is the Royal Museum, and that. I'm very excited to check out London. And if I end up liking London, I've already got stuff planned, some places to visit in Manchester, since basically it's a major city, but it's not as expensive as London. The good old Kensington Palace would be really exciting. I'm looking forward to the England trip next month. It's the end of next month. Looking very much forward. The only thing we got to worry about is the subways and stuff, but we'll find our way through all of it. I'm not too. The metro. Here's Jefferson City, guys, in front of us. Or Jefferson City. If you guys are enjoying this content and you want to learn more about the channel, smash the follow button, support the channel. I have my Discord set up here for all you guys here in the chat. That's what's going on. There isn't too many other sports things as well. Oh yeah, the USL happened. USL Championship happened. Louisville City is in the has just managed to remain unbeaten against Sacramento. So Louisville City is going to remain unbeaten in minor league soccer, which is really great to hear. Great to see Louisville still remains unbeaten. So they got overtaken by the points by London, but at least they still haven't lost yet. And San Antonio is still the leader of the West. So at least Louisville soccer doing pretty good this year. The MLB baseball standings for Major League Baseball this season. Yankees are doing pretty good. The Rays just lost their last two. Not good, but they're not doing too bad. It's still early in the season. The Tigers lead the AL Central. Tigers looking pretty decent. I know they're 500, but who knows? The Rangers are doing really well here. The Angels are still above 500 of AL West. In the National League, the Phillies are the best team in the East. The Braves have been absolute garbage this year. I'm actually shocked. I get the Nationals not being good, but the Braves being garbage this year? Things I did not see coming. The Braves being garbage was a thing I did not predict this year. The National League Central, the Cubs are really good this year. 7-4 record this year. The Cubs are doing extremely good this year. The Cubs are off to a great start this year. Who knows? Chicago being a threat in the National League. The Cubbies? That's Jefferson City. There's the state capital, Missouri. So we're going to head up to Columbia now, Columbia, Missouri. We're going to head to the college town of Columbia very soon. But yeah. And then the National West, I mean, the Dodgers, Giants, and Padres are all really good this year. The Giants are doing well. Of course, we all know the Dodgers are an insanely talent-loaded team. I don't even know how the Dodgers get this loaded of a team. Ohtani, Sasaki, Mookie Betts, Yamamoto, Jasper Hernandez, Blake Snell, Max Muncy, Glasnow. This is a loaded team. Will Smith, Dustin May. They still got Clayton Kershaw too. Yeah, that team is loaded. It's definitely interesting. And then pretty great stuff in baseball right now. I know it's still very early in the season. If you're wondering why I'm talking about baseball, you guys probably know my first ever Flight Sim series was a baseball-related series with Major League Baseball. Maybe I might attempt to bring it back in the future, but not right now. So we're going to head up to Columbia, Missouri right now. The well-known college town of Columbia, Missouri. Columbia is population 126,000. It's the fourth most populous city in the state. This Midwest college town is the home of the University of Missouri, or Mizzou, as well as Stevens College and Columbia College, given an educational focus and home to nearly 40,000 college students. It's also the principal city of its own metro area that's 215,000 people, and its combined statistical area is around 415,000. And it's the fastest growing municipality in the state. The population that's grown over 40% since, as well as the most educated cities in the country. This city is built on oak forested hills and rolling prairies of the mid-Missouri. Where in the city's center is the Avenue of Columns, which is East Street, connecting the Francis Quadrangle in Jesse Hall to the Boone County Courthouse. And the surrounding area is a green belt with all sorts of parks and forests. Originally, it was an agricultural town, though it's transformed into more of an education healthcare town with secondary interest in insurance, finance, and tech sectors. Of course, the Missouri Tigers, the state's only major college program, plays at Faurot Field, and part of the Southeastern Conference, the SEC. The state is known as the Athens of Missouri due to its educational emphasis. Classic. So yeah, Columbus. Columbia, definitely a really interesting city to visit. Columbia is a great college town. Lots of stuff to do around this area. Culturally, big part about Columbia, Missouri has always been its sports, and mainly with the University of Tigers. So the collegiate program that plays here, and their football ground is Faroe Field, which is 62,000 people. It's the third largest sport facility in St. Louis, behind the Dome America Center in St. Louis and Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. It was named Faroe Field after longtime coach Don Faroe, who had almost 8 decades of association with the university. So there's a lot of traditions at the stadium, including Rock M. There's also the Mizzou chant as well. And the largest crowd to ever play here was 75,000 people. Was the largest crowd ever in 1980. Pretty cool stuff. Bots. Seriously, why do they have to be bots? You know, you guys all know I don't like bots. Oh yeah, speaking about Premier League stuff, today is the Manchester Derby. The historic intercity rivalry, Manchester United, Manchester City. The two Titans of Manchester. You know those two teams don't like each other. They first met in 1881, and while the rivalry did have a bit of a downturn, it was mainly the 2010s where this series really began. Was during the 2010s with the rise of Manchester. Mm-hmm. Perfect stuff. So here's Columbia. We'll be flying over the university soon. We'll be flying over the football stadium. Check out the University of Missouri. Zoo. here's downtown Columbia, and then we're going to turn. Here we go, guys. Metro Municipal Airport, Memorial Airport. Go turn. Yep, so we're going to head over to Ventura Regional. We can see more of the Missouri River. Our straight ahead of us is to the Missouri River. And the Missouri River flows through much of the central part of the state, but the Missouri is one of the longest, it's the nation's longest river, actually. Missouri flows starting all the way in Montana, and it goes all the way through Montana, northern part of Montana, North Dakota, then it goes south to South Dakota, then it goes into Nebraska, and then flows into Iowa, the border between Iowa and Nebraska, flows into a bit of Kansas and Missouri, then flows directly through Missouri until it reaches the Mississippi River. There was a major route for westward expansion of the United States for the Missouri River. pretty cool stuff. And now we're gonna make our second lane of the day very soon, and then we'll rest for about a minute or two, and we'll make our way down to City for the fun stuff. We'll stop here for just a minute or two and check out. let's go ahead and get ready for the final leg of the trip here. And go ahead and make our way to Kansas City. So we're gonna head our way over to Kansas City, Missouri. KC, baby. Kansas City. Home of the Chiefs. Home of Patrick Mahomes. Here it is, guys, our last leg of. Yeah, I got an achievement to do afterwards for Firewire. Got some achievement stuff to do. Which is to redo the Six Nations Rugby Cup. Now we're heading more west and more west across the Missouri. Let's talk about some bits about Missouri's culture for a minute. And Missouri definitely has an interesting history with culture, but there are two particular big things about Missouri to talk about culturally. First is gotta be the music. And many well-known musicians were either born or lived in Missouri, and they include Stars and rock pioneer Chuck Berry. The singer and actress Josephine Baker. The Queen of Rock herself, Tina Turner, Queen of Rock. The pop singer and songwriter Sheryl Crow. Michael McDonald of the Doobie Brothers. Rap producer Metro Boomin. And the rappers Nelly, Kingy, and Akon, who are current or former residents of St. Louis. And then you also have country singers from the area, including Chris Janson, Sarah Evans, Ferlin Husky, Tyler Fair, and more native Leroy Van Dyke, as well as bluegrass musician Rhonda Vincent. Also, another famous native from Missouri was actually born here, Eminem. He was born in St. Joseph before he went up to Detroit. Ragtime composer Scott Joplin lived in St. Louis. Sadala. And rock and roll singer Steve Walsh of Kansas was actually born in Missouri. Yes. Rock band in Kansas, and your artist is from Missouri. Pretty interesting stuff. And then the Kansas City Symphony and St. Louis Symphonies are the state's major orchestras. The latter is the second oldest symphony orchestra in the country. Branson has got a lot of music theaters because it's a major tourist destination. Branson, which I did. I visited Branson. It was a neat little place. Very popular for a lot of tourism and stuff. Not nearly as much as Pigeon Forge, but still has its own sort of stuff going for it. In terms of literature history, after all, for literature purposes, it is the native state of Mark Twain himself. And his novels, his universally known novels of Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, are set in his hometown of Hannibal, Missouri. Other authors include Kate Chapman, T.S. Eliot, and Tennessee Williams from St. Louis. Each produced their most famous works and authors. Kansas City has its own writer, William Lee Heatmoon, who resides in Rocheport, and he mainly is known for Blue Highways, which chronicles of his travels to small towns across America. All major parts of his travels into the United States. Also, Missouri has a rich sports history. After all, Missouri hosted the 1904 Summer Olympics, the first time the games were ever actually held in. In terms of major sports teams in the state, there are 6 professional sports teams, 3 in St. Louis and 3 in Kansas City. For Kansas City, they have the Kansas City Chiefs of the NFL, the Kansas City Royals for Major League Baseball, and Sporting Kansas City. And fun fact about the last Kansas City team, they actually played their game not in Kansas City, Missouri, but they actually played in Kansas City, Kansas. I guess they probably didn't have enough space to put the team there. And then, of course, we talked about the 3 St. Louis teams. We also have several minor league teams across the state, most notably the Springfield Cardinals of the Texas League for Minor League Baseball. They're well known. The Kansas City Monarchs of the American Association of Baseball, Kansas City, and more. And they also have several collegiate sports, but the most notable one is the Missouri Tigers. So next year, we'll see Missouri State join Division I FBS football next year, this upcoming year. Pretty interesting stuff. So as for plans for next week's streams, next week we got a couple streams planned. I think next week um we're going to be in Europe. I think we're going to be in Spain. I think I want to check out I may want to check out um I may want to check out Portugal and northern Spain. Maybe that's what I want to check out. Check out northern Spain. That's probably what I'm gonna do next week. I think northern Spain or Portugal would be what I want to do next week for another one of those streams. And then on Friday, next Friday will be the 50 States 50 streams again. Will be U.S. state of Arkansas. We'll be in Arkansas Friday, and then Sunday will be Michigan. So So let's talk about some state facts about Missouri. Missouri has several state facts about the Show Me State. Of course, where did that Show Me State nickname from? Well, apparently it actually came from an expression in 1899 when Congressman William Duncan Vandiver stated this, I'm from Missouri and you got to show me. And it apparently transitioned into the state's famous nickname. But more of his quotes said this: "I come from a state that raises corn and cotton, huckleberries and Democrats. If frothy eloquence neither convinces nor satisfies me, I'm from Missouri, and you have got to show me." So that's how the nickname even came to be in the first place. The first successful parachute jump to be made from a moving plane was made by Captain Barry in St. Louis in 1912. So yes, the first parachute jump from a moving airplane happened in Missouri. The most destructive tornado occurred in Annapolis, and it tore through Um, a 908-foot wide trail demolished buildings, and it left 823 people dead. It was the tri-state tornado. In fact, Kansas City has actually more boulevards than Paris itself and more fountains than any other city except for Rome. And Herman, Missouri is a storybook driven village with rich winemaking and riverboat history that's displayed in area museums. Built in 1836 as the new fatherland for German settlers, received national recognition due to its quality wines and heritage. Located in Herman. So that is the state facts for Missouri. And of course, here are some very notable people. There's a lot of them here in the state. Bill director Robert Altman from Kansas City. Robert Russell Bennett, also from KC. St. Louis is home to the legendary baseball player Yogi Berra of the New York Yankees. They have Neo Show's painter Thomas Hart Benton. The well-known basketball player Bill Bradley from Crystal City. Boxer General Omar Bradley from Clark. How about the iconic, well-known and advocate of the Peanuts, George Washington Carver from Diamond Grove, Missouri. Mark Twain from Florida, Missouri. Yes, there's a town in Florida, Missouri. Mark Twain, or better known for his original name, Samuel Langdon Clemens. The famous astronomer Edwin Hubble from Marshfield. Jack S. Kilby, inventor from Jefferson City. The well-known but infamous Rush Limbaugh from Cape Girardeau. And U.S. President Harry S. Truman from Lamar. Are all some very notable people from the U.S. state of Missouri. We're pretty much getting closer to Kansas City, Missouri. Mm-hmm. So I hope you guys are enjoying this stream, and we're just doing here. Okay, we're heading to Kansas City. We'll be here very shortly. We're heading our way to KC. We're going to be heading to Kansas City here shortly. U.S. city of Kansas City. So Kansas City, Missouri will be our final stop. This city is the largest city in the state of Missouri by population and area. Its population is 508,000 people, making it the Midwest's sixth most populous city. It was founded in the 1830s as a port on the Missouri River as confluence with the Kansas River to the west. Instead of the boundary with both Kansas, it's downtown near the confluence. The state incorporates both states of Missouri and Kansas. There's several neighborhoods in this city, include the River Market District, the 18 Vine District, which was the origin of jazz music, and the Country Club Plaza. Celebrated cultural traditions include Kansas City style jazz, which was developed in the 20s and 30s, theater, the historical center for Vadelian Opium, the Orpheum Circuit, and of course all the fountains in Kansas City, as well as its sport franchise in Kansas City style barbecue and strip steak. All major parts of Kansas City. And our final stop is at the historic Charles B. Wheeler Airport. It was the original headquarters for Trans World Airlines back in the day. It's mainly used for general aviation. It replaced the old Richards Field in 1927, and it was renamed Kansas City Municipal Airport. Its main tenant was Trans World Airlines, which was headquartered here, and it was built, and it became a pretty busy airport until it was moved to the much larger airport north of it in 1972. But still today, it's still a major important airport for this region, for both corporate and recreation use, and it's also home to the National Airline History Museum, which was open here as well, which talks about artifacts from Trans World Airlines. So, pretty cool stuff. So that is the end of that. So, pretty cool stuff about Kansas City. A neat city. Of course, culture is a big part of it here in Kansas City. Kansas City was actually where Walt Disney started his first animation company, the Laugh-O-Gram Studio, which Mickey Mouse was actually designed here in Kansas City. Yes, Mickey Mouse. However, when the company went bankrupt, he moved to Hollywood and started the Walt Disney Company. But yes, Mickey Mouse was designed in Kansas City. Of course, Kansas City is famous for its steak and barbecue. The Kansas City strip steaks basically similar to the New York strip cut. And it's also among the world capitals of barbecue, with more than 90 barbecue restaurants in KC's metro area. And it was evolved from the pit of Henry Perry, a migrant from Memphis, who opened the city's first barbecue stand in 1921 and flourished. Of course, it had competition from Arthur Bryant's. And they added sugar to his sauce to become Bill Barbecue, and then one of Perry's cooks found Gates and Son. Bryant's and Gates are the two definitive barbecue restaurants in Kansas City. Barbecue is a big part of Kansas City. KC Barbecue. And Kansas City is very popular on the country. They use a wide variety of meat barbecue. Pork, beef, chicken, turkey, lamb, sausage, and even fish. Seasoned with dry rubs, slow smoke, and finally finished with a thick tomato-based barbecue sauce. Of course, another Kansas specialty KC is burnt ends. Basically, are the crusty, fatty, flavorful meat up on the point of a beef brisket. They also include unique style baked beans, french fries, and coleslaw are also part of Kansas City barbecue. Yes, Kansas City got a lot of barbecue. It's also got a rich music culture. A lot of people don't realize this, but Kansas City is a very rich music culture with both performing arts and music, thanks to all the different theater companies, but most notably, jazz was a huge part in Kansas City. Of course, there's lots of music venues all throughout the city. In fact, so much so, it's got such a rich jazz history, music history. UNESCO named Kansas City a city of music, and it's still the only one here in the country that be by UNESCO as a city of music. Not even Chicago, not even New Orleans. I mean, think about this. Kansas City is where the city of music in. More so than places like New York, Chicago, New Orleans. Places you would think to be rich in music, even Nashville and all that in LA. Yet, Kansas City is one of the centers of music. Yeah, I mean, Kansas City also has sporting tradition. So here it is, guys. We're entering Kansas City now. We're checking out. First stop is going to be looking over the two sporting facilities of the Royals and Chiefs. Kansas City's two championship-winning major teams. The Royals are two-time World Series champs. They won in 1985 and 2015. They won the World Series in those 2 years. And the Chiefs are four-time Super Bowl winners, including three of those being in the Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid era, So, and also Arrowhead is also a very noisy place to watch football. Arrowhead may be considered by maybe the loudest stadium in the NFL. It's the fans of Kansas City absolutely love their Chiefs. And finally, we're entering Kansas City. Yes, 142 decibels. I'm not joking. Arrowhead is absolutely. Arrowhead is considered to be one of the loudest stadiums in the league. It is. It is noisy, and I think it's due to its design, the lack of open end zones and corners, and the shape of its design as well. That's why Arrowhead Stadium is the loudest stadium. Um, it is insanely noisy, and that's why Arrowhead is a very tough place to play for NFL teams. Like, um, the loudest soccer stadium actually has been recorded was 131 decibels in Turkey at Turk Telecom Arena, home of Galatasaray, which is one of the major Turkish clubs. Here it is, guys. Kansas City. They also have a really great World War I museum here too. If you love your military history, they got an amazing World War I museum here in the city. Here's the Sprint Center. Would be a good spot for an NBA team. Kansas City could definitely work for basketball. They have the people to do it, and they already got 200 teams. And that is going to. And that's it, everyone. Are here. And we're gonna go power off. So guys, that is it, everyone. Welcome to Kansas City, everyone. So guys, thank you all so much for coming here today on this amazing stream here. I hope you guys enjoyed our time here in Kansas, Missouri. We visited some amazing places here today. So I know a lot of you thinking for this week. So we're gonna be back on Wednesday. We're gonna be probably heading to northern Spain. I'll keep you all posted for what we're gonna be doing, and we'll see you all there. We're gonna go ahead and say hello to Tom Murphy. He's in Montana as we speak. So take care, everyone, and have an amazing rest of your weekend. Take care, everyone, and see you all soon. Goodbye, everyone.